Hello everyone, I'm Lori Torrini. I'm part of the Animal Health and Behavior program at Unity College. This presentation is an overview of the longleaf pine forests and their ecological importance. I'm sure most of my audience are going to be reptile people or at least other animal people. So here in the title slide, you see a gray rat snake, and they are one of the very important species that are native to longleaf pine forests. And we will talk about some of those other species as we get more into this presentation. I have an accompanying website for this presentation with more detailed information, as well as a short paper I wrote as an overview to everything that's going on with this ecosystem and how it should not only be important to the people who live there, but it should be of global importance. Here's a little bit of background for you. The longleaf pine forest ecosystem are basically pine trees over grasses. Now there's lots of other vegetation there, as well as some hardwoods like oak trees, but the important piece of this ecosystem are the pine trees. It has a very high botanical biodiversity that supports a very high animal biodiversity, and it is actually second only to tropical rainforests as the most biologically rich and diverse ecosystem on the whole planet. Biodiversity includes many keystone species like the red-cocked woodpecker, which is essential for the survival of 27 other animal species that live there, the gopher tortoise, who is pictured here, and the eastern indigo snake. There are more, but I thought these would be some familiar examples. There are abundant natural resources there, as you can imagine. There are invaluable carbon sink properties associated with this forest. And then this forest has miraculously naturally evolved high fire resistance due to frequent lightning strikes that it has been exposed to over its evolution. And the health of this ecosystem is extremely dependent on natural burn cycles. Loss of the longleaf pine forest ecosystem would have a detrimental impact on the health of the planet's biosphere by increasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and decreasing the number of plants and animals that work in connection with each other to produce oxygen and organic materials for life. The longleaf pine ecosystems once covered 90 million acres, and that is in the United States in the southeast. And that declined over time to just 3 million acres. That was due to human activities. These activities included things like logging, overly efficient fire mitigation, development, repurposing of the land for non-native crops, for agriculture, because of humans killing native wildlife. There's lots of other anthropogenic factors, and those are human-caused factors why this forest is losing not only its animal biodiversity, but its plant biodiversity, which equals to the forest itself just being diminished. The species diversity is just enormous in this longleaf pine ecosystem, and it includes more than 3,000 arthropod species. Yes, that's insects and bugs and stuff. At least 36 mammals, 86 species of birds, 34 amphibian species, 38 reptile species, including this beautiful eastern indigo snake that you see pictured here, and about 170 plant species. Did you know that the longleaf pine ecosystem is a critical carbon sink for planet Earth? If you're asking yourself right about now, what is a carbon sink? Carbon sinks, such as the longleaf pine forests, are ecosystems that absorb more carbon dioxide than they are releasing back into the atmosphere. And this plays a very critical role in atmospheric health and mitigating climate change. Keystone species influence the food web and serve as or support ecological engineers. They set ecosystem boundaries and determine the nature and qualities of an ecosystem. If keystone species are lost, the whole ecosystem that was dependent on them is forced into radical changes or ceases to exist completely. This is the historic range of the longleaf pine ecosystem, all of this in dark green. So you can see it covered parts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, lots of Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, as well as South Carolina. This is what that ecosystem looks like now. So if you can see the gray lined area with the very faint gray lines going through it, that was the historic ecosystem. And now most of that is gone. You see the big green circles, and those are significant landscapes that still exist. Other colored portions are places where longleaf pine acreage still exists, but it's going to be in the just thousands of acres. But if you add all of this up together and you look at the colors on the map, you can see it doesn't come close to the 90 million acres that this once covered. Let me remind you why it has declined. Human conversion to other types of trees. So when humans go in and they remove the native plant species and other native wildlife and replace it with things of our own due to building and construction and industrialization, it harms the forest. The forest can't exist as it did because we've taken native species out and replaced them with other things. Human deforestation for construction and agriculture, whether we're building there in the site or whether we're using the lumber from those trees to build elsewhere. And then when people want to plant crops for agriculture, the trees are wiped out and then crops are planted in their place. Urban human expansion in general is causing deforestation. That means people moving into the area, and then hunting of indigenous wildlife by people. Now, fire mitigation by humans is undoubtedly one of the hugest factors in the decline of this ecosystem. So this area sustains more lightning strikes on average than anywhere else in the country, and it's evolved very fire-resistant trees. Those are the longleaf pines. And there's a 2 to 3 year regular burn cycle that's actually necessary to maintain the health of this ecosystem. So when humans interfere with that, thinking that we're doing a great thing by putting out forest fires, it's actually disturbing the natural balance in this forest. So what can we do? Well, people can plant native trees and other native vegetation, reintroduce native species, both of plants and animals, like the eastern indigo snake. Now, that's just one example, and that is being done right now. You can find out more about that from the Orion Center for Indigo Conservation. We can halt or reduce human deforestation for construction and agriculture, halt or reduce human urban expansion. We can halt or properly manage hunting of indigenous wildlife there. And we absolutely can manage fires in a way that does not disrupt this ecosystem's natural fire cycle and reliance on fires for the ecosystem to thrive. We can all support organizations working to preserve and restore the longleaf pine forest, and we can absolutely spread the word about this magnificent ecosystem and how important it is that we protect it on social media, and we can educate whenever those educational opportunities arise. So we can spread the word with swag. We can either buy swag that somebody else has made, like t-shirts and posters, or we can build it ourselves. The health of this ecosystem is very dependent on the fire cycle. So if the hardwoods overgrow in this forest, it actually impacts the health of the rest of the forest. And the health of this ecosystem is very much connected between the burning of these hardwoods and some of the other vegetation, and how that provides regrowth or nutrients for other species like the longleaf pine. If you've got this healthy fire cycle, and it keeps going every 2 or 3 years to maintain this balance, that then supports the keystone animal species there, the carbon sink properties that we gain, the whole planet gains from this ecosystem, and then the natural resources. I'm sure a lot of my audience are snake lovers, so I just had to share with you a couple of the other native snake species to the longleaf pine forest ecosystem. On the left here, you see a pine snake, and on the right is an eastern coachwhip. So where are we at today with this whole situation? Well, the longleaf pine ecosystem is vital to the overall health of Earth's biosphere, and while humans have played a primary role, actually the primary role in its decline, humans can also play a vital role in its restoration. Conservation efforts by those who reside there, as well as global support from everyone, for those organizations working to preserve and restore the longleaf pine forest, can have a favorable impact by increasing the carbon sink properties and sustaining the habitat there for all of the keystone species that I've already talked about. Here are some organizations that you can visit if you want to take action and find out what you can personally do to support efforts to restore the longleaf pine forest ecosystem. Life and natural resources in the longleaf pine forest cannot sustain without trees, and they can't maintain health without a natural burn cycle and a reduction in anthropogenic activity. Everybody, thank you so much for watching and spending a few minutes of your time with me. Until next time, everybody, please remember to always be kind and love your animals. Also, love the animals in the longleaf pine forest ecosystem and do what you can to protect them.